Okie dokie.
Okay, now we're live.
Great. So, calling the meeting to order, we will do the roll call as people present on the screen. Just as there's Don. Don's coming on, and we lost. Anyway,
Lori.
yeah, we lost Lori, and then here comes Nicole. So Nicole's coming on. I'm assuming Lori's going to come back on. Her line must have dropped. Anyway, we will call the roll call, starting with you, Colleen.
Hi, Colleen Freeheim, present.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go really, really slow to wait for
There
everyone.
you go. There you go. That's a great
David
idea.
Raymond, present.
Nicole Marisi, we're calling roll whenever you can unmute yourself.
Here, present. Thank you.
Okay. Phil McDuffie's present.
The kids are jealous of that 25-foot pumpkin in your yard.
This is Vito's favorite holiday, so every day he's growing. I think tomorrow it might be 75 feet tall.
You need to come out and check out our skeleton band.
For sure. We will definitely make it up the street.
Yeah.
Don, if you can unmute yourself and say you're present, and also if you want to share your video.
I'm present. I'm having a hard time getting my video to come up. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay,
So-
let me try my video again.
And here comes Lori back on. And Mary Elizabeth as well.
We're going to get them promoted real quick. Sorry, we're having some technical
Understood.
difficulties, but we see them here.
Oh, let's see, I've got my webcam open over here. Okay. Looks like I'm getting there.
There you go, Don. We can see you. And we can see Lori. I was just calling roll, Lori.
I'm here.
I see that. Great. And Mary Elizabeth, we're calling roll whenever you can get unmuted, and then we will, everybody's present.
Oh, present.
Thank you. All right. So now we're opening up for public comments. If there's anybody who wishes to address the Park Commission that is not on the regular agenda, please raise your hand now. I guess there's ways to do that on your phone by hitting #2, or you can do it on your screen by hitting the raise hand icon, usually down at the bottom of your screen.
Phil, we don't have anyone else on right now, so I think we're good. And Jonathan, I see that yours shows it's up. We'll have your item is coming up on number 3.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, reviewing the draft of the Park Commission meetings minutes. So there was a couple of things that I saw. One is, and I may be misrecollecting, but I don't remember that, I don't think David, that you were, or he's not seeing there. There he goes, comes back in the screen. I didn't think David was able to attend the last meeting. I think he was out working hard for the city of Rollingwood. So I don't think he was present, to my recollection.
I can make that correction.
Okay. And then there was one other item, which is on item number 2. It said, Phil McDuffie stated a correction for the record of the June 23rd minutes regarding a statement he made. I would like the correction to be either included, basically the verbiage of it to be included. And I can restate that if you guys want, or I could type something up, but I just wanted to get that in the record. That's why I asked for the correction. So
Isn't that standard that the corrected statement is supposed to be included?
I don't know. I would think so, but I don't know.
I've started, because we're recording all of the meetings and they're all on video to watch, I've tried to get away from the very detailed minutes because things like that happen. You know, I'm just trying to get everything written down and sometimes I get more detail than others. So I've kind of switched towards more action minutes because we have the full videos to go watch. I'd be happy to, you know, go back and touch that one up. And then also in the future, if y'all see corrections to the minutes before the meeting, I'm happy to fix them and put them back in the packet correctly so that way they can be approved as the commission would like to see them.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, we'll do that.
However, I do feel like we should go ahead and have the minutes corrected on paper, just because not everybody will be looking at the video. But I agree, we should get that information to you ahead of time.
Agreed.
Great. And on this one, I'll go ahead and make the correction. And then if y'all want to, I'll bring it back at the next meeting. We can just approve those minutes along with these next meeting if that works.
That totally works for me.
All right.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action on commercial use permit application by Life Keto Martial Arts. So the floor is yours, Jonathan. If you can unmute yourself and.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you for having me here. Well, some of you may be familiar with our program, Life Keto. We've been on PKs for over 27 years now, and we work with thousands of children, teens, and adults. And I also work with the local schools, doing teacher continuing ed, and do parenting workshops. So we've been part of the community for a long time. And obviously, after school, in-person activities have been hit really hard. So we've lost like over 50% of our business like instantaneously, which has been extremely difficult. And so we've been doing a lot of work on Zoom. I teach every day, all day, more or less on Zoom. And then we've opened some small in-person classes for people that want that. But we think offering an outdoor option would be really wonderful for the community, because some people don't want to be in person and Zoom doesn't work for them. So we're hoping to be able to serve more people in Rollingwood and Westlake being in the park. And I know a lot of people I've spoken to really love that park and have been very involved with the park already, some of our students. So it seems like it would be a great fit. And I was looking around town and they just said that would be their first choice. So I was hoping that it would work for you all and also be a great thing to just to bring to the community through the park. And when we were pictured doing it, wouldn't be like, you know, contact martial arts. We're all based on life skills, teaching people how to feel and be their best and be very kind, respectful people. And so we'd like to have classes, a couple classes after school on Tuesday, and then a couple on Saturday morning and then one Saturday afternoon, just to start and see how it plays out. And have small groups, and there'd be social distancing, and it would be just individual work. It wouldn't be partner work or wrestling or anything like that. So that's what we were hoping for to do in that park.
Do you know which area of the park you would be in? Do you have a specific field, or the upper, lower, or?
Well, I came over there the other day and I was walking around a little bit, so I don't know it that well, but the lower by the building where there's a tree and it was like a shady spot, it seemed like it was more confined there. And I thought for as far as if parents were to come watch, and then if the children could be there, it would be like a more confined area again. And up above, it just seemed so open to me. I think it would be harder for the families, just my perception. But you know, I'm open to whatever you all think. But it seemed like a great area. I like to have that wood wall there, and then had the playground down the road. And the parents wanted to bring chairs. Maybe they could sit further away and watch.
As far as I know, that area should work. I know there's kind of a yoga fitness group that works out oftentimes there in the mornings, but you're saying only after school and on Saturday. That would certainly prevent any kind of conflict with Western Hills or any of the other that are using the upper field. So that sounds like a good solution. Is anybody else aware of anything that might raise a conflict?
You would be between the police station and the playscape? Is that the area?
Yeah,
that you have in
if I
mind?
remember, as far as the space, there was the building, the police station, and then there was a little area where there's a tree and it was very shady. And then there was the pavilion and then the playscape. So over in the corner by that, like right past the left of the building, as soon as you get in the grass area, there's a little corner that I felt was, again, seemed more confined.
Okay, so it'd be between the pavilion and the police station parking lot and all that.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And how many people do you see at a gathering?
Well, I know that, I don't know if this is true, Ashley mentioned that you have a 25 people maximum, but I was thinking in general doing way less than that. So, and I'm open to that conversation. I was picturing most of the kids' classes being like 8, 10, 12 max. And then I'm going to do on Saturday afternoon like a teenager, adult, more advanced class. And I could also keep it at 10 or 12 if you wanted. I'd be comfortable going to 15 if that works for you all. If not, I'm fine. Whatever amount you all think is best for the space and for you all.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Berlin has its own regulations or if it's still 10 people max everywhere. I'm not really up with where that stands today.
Okay, thanks.
Mary Elizabeth? You need to unmute yourself, Mary Elizabeth.
I think we would need to be flexible here and see how it goes also. Like Jonathan was saying, he needs to see how well it's received, how many people are interested. So I think flexibility on our part would be necessary, as well as keeping in mind the limitations imposed on us by the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know how busy it is on Saturday afternoons or Saturday mornings.
I don't either. I think something that might impact it a little bit, but probably shouldn't be a problem is, I think some families that might be coming up for the baseball and softball games, they may have younger children and they might want to play on the playground. Of course, there's a playground up above, but there's also the lower playground that is larger and a lot more fun. So there may be some little kids down there as a result of that with the games, but I don't see a tremendous amount of activity Saturdays with the exception of the games. But I'm not out there all the time either. So
Jonathan, I think you run great programs, and you've run great programs for so many years. And I think I'm definitely in favor of having Life Keto at the park. I think the only thing is, of course, the flexibility to kind of, go with whatever changing regulations that we might have regarding class sizes, based on what happens with this pandemic that we're in. But I'll just go ahead and put my vote in for support of this, because I think there is space, and I think it would be a nice service to just offer to the Rollingwood community that has a ton of families, but also just, the community in general. And I know you guys run great programs, so would be happy to have you from my personal perspective.
I echo what Colleen just said.
So does anybody else have any input? Nicole?
Yeah, just more on the liability perspective of things. What kind of waiver do you have your participants sign? What legal hold harmless do you have with the city, since they're on city property here, and not to skew away from the program you offer, which is phenomenal. It's more about what's your process? How do you inform folks, if it is true, mostly Rollingwood and Westlake people, that somebody has had or contracted COVID? What's the reporting policy? And then how much of the city do we have this burden to carry from a liability perspective, since it's, again, on city property? That's sort of my question to the commission as well as the city council.
Sure. So we do have an insurance policy which is sent over to the commission. And I do teach all over town. I go to Lake Travis and teach district-wide for the teachers. And so we do a lot of things on public grounds, if you will. And so everyone signs a liability form when they join us, and basically saying that they're completely responsible and liable for all that happens, and we're not responsible for anything, even though we have that insurance policy. That's pretty much what they sign away. when people join. And so it would be the same thing on your premises, and we can add something special. What we're going to start doing is doing like a 6-week trial program, just kind of see how it works, and knowing that there's the weather issue and the holidays are coming up. So we figure we'd do like a 6-week and leave a couple-week buffer for the holidays, and then kind of go from there and adapt, like you're all saying. But as far as the legal part, just like always with anything that we do, people sign the waiver, and we do have an insurance policy as well. So I'm not trying to answer your question clearly. As far as COVID, if something happened with COVID, I mean, well, first of all, we're going to be outside social distancing, but if something did happen with somebody, we'd immediately notify all the families, no question.
And then do you mind asking what you're anticipating to charge for this 6 weeks program? Or do you have an idea of what it is that you're trying to generate revenue-wise?
Sure. I mean, in general, like in our programs, there's variations, but a safe thing of saying is a student pays $100 a month for our regular program. So it would probably be something like that. I have to sit down and go through the numbers, how many weeks we're going to do. But what's going to happen is we're hoping mostly to get people, say, enrolling when they're not current students maybe, or people that were not able to continue because they don't want to be on Zoom, or they can't be in person inside. So we're hoping to get back some more of those people because we've been hit so hard business-wise. But it may just end up where some of our current students switch to outdoors for those 6 weeks. So it may not change our income with some of the students. So I mean, I'm hoping to generate income to help us, because to be honest, it's very hard for us right now. Like, we still have to pay our full rent and our employees, and we're making half the amount of money. So it's, to the point where just trying to figure out how to make it work to get through the pandemic. So it's much more about trying not to go further in the red than make great revenue from it, which I would like to do, don't get me wrong. It's just to try to get through this time period so we can still exist. I mean, we never picture ourselves in a situation like this, like many of us, but to get hit this hard as, my personal family is going into the red, trying to keep it afloat.
This would be nice if generated some new interest from the community in martial arts.
That'd be great. And when I say this, I don't want to speak about myself as really the program, but in my experience, when we do go into a community, I feel like we can serve the community really well. Not just the child, we give parents a lot of support. I work with parents very directly, very often. And so it's a whole family. It's like, my whole thing is family well-being. How do we support your families in well-being as a parent, our kids, and how do we work together as a family unit? So I really believe if it was something that we end up doing more work together, that we could really serve the community well. And I love working with organizations. If you all ever want to do a workshop or something, I'd be happy. It's something that I feel really good about doing, is supporting families and communities.
So is this something we take a vote on?
I'm sorry?
Is this something we vote on?
Yes, please.
I
We
was
could do
waiting for, is there any more discussion? If not, then I believe what we'll probably be doing is making a recommendation for approval of it to go forward to the city council. But
I don't believe the last one went to city council when we did the Pure Bar. I think it was just approved at the park commission, so I think that's sufficient. Just a motion to approve or whatever the commission sees fit.
I need to hear a motion from someone.
I make a motion to approve this.
I'll second that motion.
Second. Okay. So a motion by Mary Elizabeth Kofer, second by David Raymond. All in favor, say aye.
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 Or raise your hand, or whatever you do. Anybody opposed? 2 hands, David. All right. Hearing no opposition. This
That's not double voting, just saying. That's not double voting with 2 hands.
Good point.
You're only allowed to vote once.
Stay in line. All right. So that is approved. So now we are moving on to items 3, 4, and we're going to try to fold item number 12 in with that as well. Had a request from Steve this morning. I think it makes perfect sense. But moving on to you, Steve, if you can unmute yourself. This is item number 3, update on the lease agreement with Western Hills Little League and Western Hills Girls Softball.
Do you prefer me not being here or being here, or? whatever's better for you all.
Who's speaking?
You don't have to stay on anymore if you don't want to, Jonathan. You're,
You can drop off.
yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support, everyone. Hope to serve you all well.
Thank you. We look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you out there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I think, Phil, I think the item we wanted to move up was 13, which is the pet pavers, not 12.
On my screen, it says 12.
Oh,
At
okay.
least on the, I'm pulling up the HTML agenda document because I found that the easiest to navigate or
All right.
me to cut these things out.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm looking
The
at the,
HTML looks to be off somehow. It looks like it has roll call as 1 and then the consent agenda. So on the regular agenda, it is 13. Sorry
Okay.
about the technical difficulty. Not sure where that one happened, but.
anyway,
yeah, so update, if you guys have been up there, softball's been running kind of in full since the beginning of September. Games started the second week of September. It was like September 12th or 13th. So we've had, 3 or 4 full weekends up there. Things have gone well. We have not, at least as far as I know, nothing has been reported to me on any COVID cases or anything among any of our participants. Some teams are, some coaches are being ultra careful. The girls are wearing masks even during practices and everything. That's not quite to what our rules say, but they're just, like I said, being, ultra conservative and careful up there. We're using sanitizer and cleaner as much as possible. The Little League, if you have been at the park, I believe there's been some scattered stuff happening, but I believe they will be starting this week. I think kind of is the impression I'm getting. You'll start to see them more up there this week with practices and games. Other than that, on the updates, that's kind of the main things on the season. Are there any questions or anything on the season before moving on to the next agenda items?
I have a question. So the players are playing, some wear masks and some don't. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, so the way the rules are, or the way the policies and procedures we kind of set up are, if you can't be social distanced, you should be wearing a mask. And so most of the practice and the drills and things, the coaches keep them pretty separated. If you have been up there or see them, the use of the dugout is like pretty much not really allowed if there's more than 1 or 2 girls that are going to be using it. So we have them kind of spaced out along the sideline fences. So during practices, the game up, they have to set their bags 6 feet apart all the way down the fence. We do softball's a little bit different than Little League in that we play other leagues. So, Oak Hill and Lake Travis, we travel there and they travel here. They have to follow our home field rules. So they space out just like we do. And so the requirement is they only have to wear masks if they're in that 6 feet, within the 6 feet of closeness. And what I mentioned was some coaches actually, even if they're over 6 feet, require all the players to wear a mask, all practice and in games too. So, like I said, they're being
you have a runner, a batter running to first base, and I'm just kind of curious, but there would certainly be some inadvertent no mask, close, people breathing hard. I don't know what you can do about that.
Yeah, and we do not require it, I guess, if
All the
they're
time.
at like home plate and, the catcher's there too. It's, I guess, trying to follow the within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, kind of what the CDC says on that close contact.
And they're
But-
outdoors.
Yeah, and every kid and parent is told that if they feel like they need to wear a mask, that they should wear a mask. And some kids do, and that was all, if you watch kind of the major leaguers and stuff, some of them wear the face guards and the masks. I don't know if I've seen them wearing batting, but when they run bases, a lot of them do wear it up. So I think it's more kind of if they're in close quarters, we want them to wear it, but then I think it's more a individual choice of what makes each individual safe or feel safe, I guess.
Okay, well, thank you.
I mean, I can say I haven't seen any of the games, but watching some of the practices, it seems like they're being incredibly cautious and following every possible guideline. From what I can see, it looks, I was amazed, frankly. So it looked great.
So it just you will start to see more activity with Little League picking up, and so if there's any concerns there, I think they've both of us have talked a lot and tried to mimic, but they have a lot more kids and coaches and teams, so I know that's harder to get everyone to follow same policies and procedures. So we're going to be trying our best. I know that for sure.
Steve?
Can we get a schedule from you as far as when your teams practice that we could post for the residents?
Yes.
Nicole, would we post that on that, over by the playground, on that bulletin board there?
I think that's a great thing, or maybe even link it into some kind of an email that gets distributed through city. You know how when we get those alerts saying there's a water break or boil your water, is it possible to do something like that, just so it's more widespread?
I just think that a lot of people don't look at that. I think if it could be right there for someone to just go into the playground to see, I don't see that sign or that board there getting used much, and I think that would be really nice.
I would agree. And I wouldn't use it as an emergency alert kind of thing. I think that's overusing the system. And I know I get it on my phone and my text and an email. So I don't think I'd want to see that personally. So I say we use the boards we have.
I would like to see an email go out at the first of the season, just a single email, here's the schedule. There,
Well,
if you want it.
I'll let Steve speak to this, but the schedule can be changed because of weather or other conditions that arise. So realize that the schedule is not set in stone, even if we have a schedule.
But he could put that on there. The schedule.
Yeah.
I like Don's idea, just an email at the beginning of the season. I mean, everyone knows that games do change, but at least you get a heads up what the season's going to look like.
We definitely don't need an alert. That's overkill.
Well, I see Steve nodding his head. Does that mean you're willing to do that, Steve?
Yeah, no, I can email ours out. I'll have to notify Little League to get. I'm not sure if everything's set on their end because, like I said, they just started. But yeah, I will email ours out, and I would say just from past historical knowledge of working with the league, it's pretty much 85 to 90% set. There will be times, I guess, when we have bad weather weeks where people move practices and try to get something in if they're getting canceled. But there will be some variance, but it's pretty set. But yeah, I can email that over later today.
Great. Anything else on item number 3 for anyone? If not, I guess we'll move on to item number 4, which is the outline of the capital improvements from Western Hills. And
So yeah, we just provided a list of the amounts that are coming up. Evidently, the fencing will be the big thing, and that's keep in mind that's kind of my best estimate, and that was from a proposal Catherine Horn got. It'll be over a year old or a year and a half old. So that probably has gone up, I would say. And so other than that, this is kind of the main things we'll be doing up there. Some have already been done. Some, unfortunately, with that Western Hills Little League batting cage, the net already has to be replaced in less than 5 months because I'm not sure if you guys were in the park at all, but the University of Texas baseball team chose to start using our batting cage in the month of August because UT was shut down, and they evidently hit the ball so hard they broke the net already. So we have to replace that net.
I did see that. I didn't know that was who was doing that, but yeah, those guys could box some balls. So.
So, that was a little unfortunate. But
on the list, is there anything about the grass and the turf, or is that? I was under the impression way back when everybody said that they were going to be digging up the whole field and returfing it, all that sort of thing. Has that gotten pushed because of budget constraints, or what's going on with that?
Amber, I don't know if that was ever my impression that the whole thing would be dug up and returfed. I think it was more we were going to try to grow grass by seeding.
That was what I understood too. I don't think there was ever any plan to completely tear up the field, but rather try to put topsoil, seed it and aerate it.
Okay. Well, that certainly would be a lot less intrusive, and I think that's a much better idea. I was just under the impression that at some point of the year, the fields were going to be not able to be used by anyone as everything got established. That was what I was hearing. So I'm hearing now that's probably not going to occur, and that would be great if it's not going to occur. But
Go ahead,
Steve. From my impression with meeting with some turf guys, when we were putting the whole proposal together and everything, the suggestion was if you do try to seed, that you try to shut the park down for a week to 2 weeks to try to let those seeds, get in there and grow and not, have a lot of activity on top of them. So that was definitely brought up as trying to keep activity off when you do that. That'll be, when we get to that point, we'll just have to discuss that and what makes sense or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough thing possibly to do, but yeah, that either way, it's definitely a lot better than what I was under the impression way back when was going to be done with ripping everything up. So, and I think it makes sense for us to fold in item 12 and 13 when we're discussing the contributions and the budget. It's 12 on mine, it's 13 on other people's agenda, but Steve and I walked the fields, looked at the gates, which for a lot of people are a large part of the most problematic issues that we've got, and then some of the fencing really coming loose, both at the bottom, at the top. And so for fencing repairs and for gates, Steve asked if we might be willing to have the money from the PEP pavers help contribute, partly because as a result of COVID, registration by girls softball and Western Hills Little League is down somewhat. So much in the same way that the martial arts group was trying to make survival happen, I think it might be a good use of those funds and help out our partners with Western Hills and with girls softball by contributing those funds towards fixing the gates and fixing the fencing that are common use for all. And it's roughly, looking at the money that was collected for pet pavers, it's $2,000 something. So
I like that.
Are there any other intended or proposed uses for that money, or is it just kind of?
I haven't heard of any.
Okay.
And I've been discussing that with a lot of people who both have children who are involved or were going to be involved with the girls softball and with the Little League, and who also use the field for recreation with their children and with the dogs. And so far, all I've gotten is positive responses to this proposal. Everybody thinks that that would be a wonderful use of those funds. But if anybody has objections or anything like that, then certainly that's why we discuss things.
Well, Colleen, this was kind of your baby, if I recall correctly. So just curious how you and Mary Elizabeth, right? Was it your two that initiated it?
Colleen did everything.
It wasn't all me, but I'm definitely in favor of those funds going towards things that would benefit the park in terms of any type of repairs to fencing or whatever it may be. So Phil and I kind of discussed it offline, and definitely in support.
Well, Colleen, you did a good job, and this is great that this money can use that. Plus, the pavers look great.
Well, I'm hoping that we can sell some more now that David and his team have got them being put in the ground. So I'm really excited they're getting installed. Thank you, David. I know David's on the call. I think I see him there. And just glad they're going in, and hopefully that'll be good advertisement, and we can get another poster. Or I don't know if we're going to have to redo the old poster because it had some inaccurate information on it, but get another one out in advance of the holiday season so that if people want to do, holiday gifts, that they can get pavers.
I think both having the pavers out and actually seeing the money go to something that most people think is needed and a benefit to the park, and also helping out Western Hills, I think all of those things will help spur more people to contribute and perhaps buy pavers.
Can we put that information on the website of where it's going and on the banner so people know where their money is going should they donate? And then is there a picture on the website of them laid in? Because I think that would also spur interest.
I think those are great ideas. And there's no reason we can't get that added to the website. And if we redo the banner, for sure. And getting a photo of that once it's all installed in the next few days is a great idea. So love that.
Any other discussion on the item 12/13 of perhaps contributing the money as it currently exists from the pet paver project toward helping Western Hills? If there's any more discussion on that item. Barring that, do I hear any kind of motion?
I motion to approve the pet pave funds to be used to make the gate repairs on behalf of Western Hills Little League and softball. And thank you for the strong partnership. And let's keep the momentum going on how money coming into the city is being used in such a wonderful way.
I'll second.
Okay, I hear A motion by Nicole Marisi and a second by Lori Mills.
I was calling.
Oh,
It was
Colleen,
me, actually. Yeah.
it's hard for me to keep track of
Voices.
voices, and sometimes there's a little bit of delay on the video as well. So I'm going to do the same thing just because it moves things along more quickly. All those in favor say aye or hold up your hand or both. Aye. I see overwhelming support, so the motion passes with no opposition. Thank you, Steve, for your partnership. I am glad that we were able to help out.
And
Yeah.
Phil, if we could go back to item 5, I think there was room for action there to make a recommendation to approve the contribution plan.
Okay. Once again, I'm on my screen. It says item 4, but I understand everything got off by 1. So the contribution plan, item 5. If we need to, so if everybody's been able to look that over, is there any more discussion on the proposed contribution plan? I'll give everybody a moment to pull it up. It would be, basically it's a sheet speaking that they're going to be redoing the batting cages and backstops, sunscreen, field 2 backstop, and then extensive gate and field and fencing.
I make a motion to approve. This is Laurie.
Okay, Lori, in the motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mary Elizabeth Kofer. All those in favor, raise hand and say aye and or. Aye. Don? All
I'm-
those. Oh,
I'm opposed.
Okay.
I'm not as familiar with this as I could be, but it's a lot of money. So
it is, but it is coming from Western Hills. This is part of their lease agreement. They have a minimum of $30,000 that they're supposed to make to the park facilities.
over
So
the next 10 years? Is that over the next 10 years?
no, over this year, 1 year.
Each year they
One
get
year.
30,000 in capital improvements for the lease.
Right. So basically, this is the money that Western Hills is saying they are going to pay toward our park. This is not coming out of the city's budget in any way.
So the big one really is the fencing.
Correct?
I'm apologize for not being more prepared, but for example, the backstops, are they just, what will be done to the backstops? Field 1 and field 2.
Yeah, so Don, if you've been up to the park on field 1 that faces Rollingwood Drive, there's that padded thing behind home plate that says City of Rollingwood on it.
Yes.
So the field 1 has already been done. It's already on there. And so we're going to try to do the same matching one on field 2 to make it, right now we just have a wood board that's covered by AstroTurf. So we're trying to make them a little bit nicer and also promote the brand of Rollingwood. So those are the 2 backstops that we're discussing.
Okay. I mean, this improves the fields. I'm okay with all that, so I'll vote to go along with that. So, aye.
Okay, great. So now we have everyone in favor, and so the motion passes. So thank you again, Steve, for your partnership and for being here to explain everything.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the donation of the money. I think when I walked the park with Phil, I kind of gave him, we'll try to get some of those gates corrected right away. And then the fencing will be the thing, when we've got to do full fencing and stuff, we're going to try to do it at a downtime. So like I said, it'll either be once the season ends in December or just depending on money. Little League's kind of the one that was hurt worse, I think, with monetary. So we might have to wait till after the spring season, but we'll try to make it all happen as soon as possible within the 12 months.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. And as I've stated, if in any way that I can help, if when we're doing the gates or anything like that, want to give me a ring, and I'm fully willing to run out there and help eyeball it so we get something that works for everyone. That would be wonderful.
Why would you have to run up there? You're always up there.
Not so, but up there a lot. I am up there a lot. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to item 5, I guess, /6. Lee Devine. I spoke to Lee this morning. Unfortunately, Lee has come down with COVID and is in the hospital at the moment. So he will not be joining us today. I spoke with him briefly. What he had to convey most of all was that the city and the park commission should not overthink the Eagle Scout project process, because mainly it's up to the Boy Scouts of America. But I did reach out to Bruno Zucca, who is Andrew Zucca, who is the gentleman doing the Gaga Pit proposal project, to fill in at the last moment. And Bruno has gracefully accepted to kind of fill us in and educate us a bit on the process. So Bruno, if you can unmute yourself, and if you want to join on video, if that's a possibility, then we would love to hear from you at this time. He's unmuted. Oh, no, he's not. He's promoted. Now he's unmuted. Bruno. Oh, he's still muted. Bruno, usually on the screen somewhere, if you're joining on a screen, you need to hit the microphone icon to unmute yourself. There we go.
Am I on? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you
Can
are.
see me?
The floor is yours. We can hear you.
Hello. Let me.
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
All right. So I guess I was brought to talk about the Eagle process. I guess I can start with the Boy Scouts. The way it works, and it works well, is that we're trying to build our kids, or the kids, into becoming adults, and part of that responsibility is creating putting in front of them challenges, and that starts with tenderfoot to first class to life and eagle. I think the star and eagle. So they're in these challenges. Most of them, we're trying to teach them to give back to the community and to learn how to do that. The Eagle Project is unique in multiple ways because the child has to learn how to run the project. So really, at the end, we're hoping that the child completes the project and does it on his own. And that's how, and that means that both in terms of designing, talking to the benefactor, getting working out issues with the benefactor, bring it up to the committee and into the adult leadership of the troop, and then bring it to the larger district committee that also reviews those plans. So it's a lot of steps, but it is designed to teach a child how to work through through problems, right? So the idea is that hopefully challenges do come about, and that the child is learning as they go through that process of working through the project and making sure it meets the needs of the benefactor and, learn something out of it. So to that point, the process is long. From a percentage perspective, there's only a very small percentage of scouts that become Eagle. So it's not like everybody needs to become Eagle. Ideally, you want people who become Eagle that have gone through these steps and have shown the ability to go through all these challenges and work through it. So it is very difficult. It needs to be that way because, again, it's the only thing that you can put in your resume when you graduate from college, saying that you were an Eagle Scout, and actually is looked upon as an achievement from a lot of your people who are hiring. So that's sort of the broad view of Eagle. Is there any questions or comments?
It sounds like you're saying, to some extent, turn these kids loose, make sure they're not going to screw anything up, but the Boy Scouts will provide guidance if needed, and things that involve Rolling Wood and its properties. Sounds like you're saying, let these kids run these projects and succeed and fail on their own merits, which I assume will mostly be success.
Most of the time it's success. I mean, once they get to this level, that's why it takes a long time to go through the documentation, so that when the execution does happen and people are on the ground putting things together, that we've already gone through multiple iterations of the process. So the idea is that at that level, when you're building a Gaga pit, or you're building a water retention tank, or you're building a vegetable garden, or whatever the projects may entail, they're successful because we have gone through the steps of making sure that the kid has thought through all the different problems and has communicated to the benefactor the concerns and issues.
And Don, as the benefactor, I mean, basically the city would be a benefactor of the projects, but we also get to input quite a lot. That's part of their process. They're certainly not turned loose on the city. The city gets to say, yes, that is a project that we would be interested in having done or not. So
it sounds like what I think I hear Bruno saying is our job is more like to review, make sure that what's going to get done is something we want and it's appropriate, but let the Scout and the Boy Scout organization take care of execution and details and planning, etc.
Well, true and not true. So execution is still I'm assuming through the planning, the benefactor has some input to how to execute the process, meaning they have desires of where to put the particular item. They can talk about how big it can be or not big. They can talk about what is made out of or not. So the benefactor has a lot of inputs in the planning process. I guess the execution part of it, meaning that the projects get put together, yes, that's pretty much left to not the Boy Scout. The Boy Scout at this moment, he's more like your project manager. So he's not actually supposed to do any of the work. The idea is that what he's trying to do is train adults and or younger kids to help with the projects. An example, I can talk to a couple of EO projects. One was a flower garden in Eanes Elementary School. So we were there for the Eagle Scout, and he was basically telling us what he wanted to do on the project, and the adults and the younger kids helped out, shovel dirt, put dirt there. They're not supposed to use tools, so a lot of things had to be drilled, or if they're required to use tools, then the adults help with the tools. But the Eagle Scout candidate really was more about planning, making sure everybody's there, making sure that all the materials was ordered properly and available. Any adults that needed to come to help with using tools were there to help out. They also making sure that the kids showed up and were helping out. And it requires a lot more leadership in that perspective, because some of the younger kids are only like 7th graders, 6th graders, so they're much younger. So ideally, he's communicating through and helping them, finding an opportunity for them to help, but not to create a job that is too overwhelming for them.
So it's project manager more.
Yeah.
Close. That's what it's closest to. Okay.
Yeah. Ideally, that's the end result, is that because it requires fundraising, it requires communicating with all people. So at the end, when he has the whole plan lined out and everybody approves on it and signs off of it, the idea is that the project is laid out to both the benefactor's needs and to the and understanding all the different requirements needed to accomplish this project. Meaning, if we have to go in there one weekend to move some dirt or clear out some grass, and then come in the next weekend to put in retaining walls to help, so the dirt doesn't, wash away, things like that. That's sort of the planning that the child will have to create to mitigate any problems that may exist or come about.
And also, I don't know how we would include this, but Lee provided a link from the Boy Scouts of America about the outlining the process. It's a web link, and I don't know how we would make that available to anyone who's interested, but I would like to.
It's a PDF, should be a PDF, I think.
Yeah, I would like
a Gantt chart
to be available for both the Park Commission and anyone else who might want to look at it. But that's something that outlines the process in more detail as well. So, Amber, I don't know if we can, what would be the best way to possibly
if you'd like to forward that to me, this is Ashley. I can send it out to the commission and maybe put a link to it on the Park Commission website.
That would be great. I will do that.
And it's really mostly about process. It's not about the project specifically. It just talks about the process. And it's really, it's a flow chart to help the kid, again, to make sure he doesn't skip a step. And then the goal is multiple review processes, making sure everything is thought through, and the needs of the benefactor being met.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for Bruno?
Actually, I do. Bruno, do these young men, did they generally come up with the projects on their own? Or is it something they go around and ask people what needs to be done?
Usually they would ask a benefactor what their needs are, if there are needs. Sometimes they come up on their own by seeing other examples that have been done in other Eagle Scout projects. I would say Andrew's project, my son's, was a little bit from that perspective. He had seen other kids have built Gaga pit, so his opinion was, hey, let me see if Rollingwood would like to have a Gaga pit there. And I didn't realize you all were also working on that same project. So he approached, I think, Jordan initially, because he's in part of the troop, and he then suggested to meet with y'all, and so he did that. So the whole process was initiated by him on that process. Now, there's definitely, like, within the church, a lot of the Boy Scout projects get are in the church that they meet, because the church says, oh, we need this, and then so the kids can choose from them which ones they want to do. There's also some Eagle projects being done at Cedar Creek Elementary, so there's parents over there that needing certain things to be done, so they kind of create a list of things they want done, and then they pass it out to all the different troops that are in the area. I mean, they're Troop 30, Troop 31, Troop 70, Troop 990. So there's like 4 troops just within, less than 2-3 miles from Rollingwood that, and there's probably other ones in Terrytown and so forth that I just know the ones in the Bee Caves district that are close. I mean, if you have a list of things that you like done, have the troop, the boys look at, I think it's valuable.
Do we have a list of things that they could already that we agree that they would?
That's part of our next agenda item. So I think
Somebody has am I muting? Am I creating this problem?
No, you're not.
It's kind of echoing over here.
No, we don't hear that yet, or I don't.
Okay, I hear an echo.
Okay.
Better.
But anyway, yeah, as Nicole was pointing out, I think now we're kind of moving into the next agenda item. So, I mean, we can, if Bruno, if you can hang out with us and
sure,
we can just keep moving into that, I think that would make sense. We don't need to make a hard stop, but we can move into the next agenda item, which is volunteer project approval process, and I think this is yours, Nicole. So,
well, it's a collaboration of you, me, and Laurie. So after our last meeting, we've spent quite a bit of time, and then working with Andrew previously on how to go about this process and approval. So we had made a suggestion and a motion that coming to this meeting, if we could break off into a smaller group, and that's why Phil, Laurie and I worked together to put together a processes that would allow something like this to happen, but not have so much time spent in one of these commission meetings. And so y'all could just review this document. This is truly just, do we agree? Do we disagree? Let's sort of hash out sort of what we believe the process would help to streamline the communication between an Eagle Scout or any other volunteer that's in the community that wanted to do something as us as the beneficiary, the city of Rollingwood. And that's where this is now at, and not meant to tell the people how to do it, but truly the process of coming to the city for approval with the hopes of being able to do something for us. Does that make sense?
How do you feel what happened with Andrew? Was that, how was your thoughts about the process with Andrew?
I thought the process went great with Andrew. I personally was involved a lot with Andrew. I thought the process went great. This might be something that.
So that's why my thoughts are on that one too. I mean, I think the good feedback, challenging him is really important. Say, hey, have you thought about this? Did this or try this? So it's important to have the feedback from the benefactor.
For sure, it was great. But if we did that with every single person that came to us, we would spend an exorbitant amount of time
I see, yeah,
reviewing it and putting this into place. And so that's where we're trying to streamline it to say, instead of taking, this is our third meeting now that we're talking about an Eagle Scout project,
Right.
to be able to have a process with the city. If an individual is interested, they would go to the city and then they would hear what the commission is suggesting for the process to be. So that way we don't have to go through that time with each individual that comes to us.
Right. No, I think if you have a list of particular projects, I think, we can easily pass it to the district level or even to the troops and have the kids that are close to becoming Eagle, working on their Eagle projects, can start looking at different options they can want to work on. And that might be very helpful, both from the Eagle, from the Boy Scout, from the kid himself wanting to choose projects and finding ones that are close by, helpful, but also benefiting both the adult and the benefactor and the kid. It's great. Yeah. So
From a staff perspective, I just want to thank you three for doing the homework on this. This is incredible. It's great. I think it's going to streamline the process, and I'm a fan. Good work.
Thanks, Ashley.
And so really, County Commission, if y'all can look at this, there were two big things that we were looking for discussion on, in addition to those bullet points that would streamline the process for an individual. So please just, if we can, make a discussion and a motion to move one way or another. Awesome. If we need more time, then we can do that as well. And ask any questions, please, at this point.
Well, one of the things is with Lee, unfortunately, ill right now, and he's more of the scout master. I certainly don't want to circle back and keep beating this dead horse, but I'm not sure that he's been able to review it, or I just don't know where the Boy Scouts are with this, that if they're in agreement or if they've got modifications. I don't know if we...
It's more of our city position on how somebody would. I'm not sure how much we would take input from a third party.
yeah.
Our process, in my opinion, that's, again, we can push it off again, or we as a city can say, this is what we're suggesting, this is what we approved, and this is the process. And if you don't like it, then bring it up and we'll reassess it another time. But again, at some point, I think we just have to make a decision, collaborate, make that decision and move forward with the opportunity to reevaluate somewhere else or reassess down the road.
I agree, Nicole. And I think it still goes to council from here, so there's more discussion there. I think we're just saying we as a park commission would like to see this process move into place to streamline the way that the Boy Scouts come to us and choose projects.
Right.
Hey, Nicole, I did want to address the one thing that you had up for discussion, which was having a project list kept on file. So I feel like maybe we could at least come to some conclusion on how we populate that pre-approved project list. Not come up with what the projects are today, but just come up with how do we make that list. Is that something where we get community input? Is that something that we put on, once a quarter? The park commission will look at it and try to come up with new project ideas, or revise the list if some of the things maybe are outdated and we don't want those to be pre-approved projects. I'd love to maybe have a really focused discussion. If we do have a pre-approved project list, how are we going to populate it and revise it as needed?
Thank you, Colleen. That's really important. Otherwise, we're going to have people trying to do tennis courts right there on Rollingwood Drive or something bizarre. I think that's real important.
So did you have any thoughts, the folks that worked on this, like how that list process would work?
Part of it could populate out of our monthly walkthroughs that we do with the city that would identify needs of the park. Could potentially morph into something that is needed by the city. we would always circulate back to the master plan to say, how does this coincide with that big overall project? So I think part of it could be populated from that. And then that's a later on discussion item of how we get that information onto the website. But I also think just because of the commission knowing the park so well, that we could be able to generate ideas within ourselves and then have that be something kept on file with the city. Again, as we see things that are of need for the park in itself on a month-to-month basis. But as far as any other specifics, I don't know. Just as we're talking now, somebody might say, oh, by the way, I think that we would need X, Y, and Z. So that could be a potential opportunity for us to create those lists.
Well, I remember talking to you guys 2 months ago, because it wasn't at the September meeting, but we could start with the plan, the comprehensive plan of the park, and prioritize that, and break it into pieces that potentially a group like the Eagle Scouts can do. We can start there, at least have something for them to get working on already. It's an idea.
That's a great idea. Again, we have the master plan here. So again, like you said, David, 2 months ago, we had put on there to come to the next meeting with everybody kind of diving into a portion of it and saying, hey, here's what should be our focus on it. And then do any of these morph into an opportunity for an Eagle Scout or another volunteer to be able to do a project on our behalf as a beneficiary.
All right. And I think that's something either me or anybody else in the troop can talk to, it being a nice project for the Eagle Scout. We don't want to make it too simple. Usually Eagles projects should last, in terms of work days, at least 2 to 3 weekends is the goal. So think through that process when you're looking at projects that, maybe it could be a combination of multiple projects, but usually you want to have the kids show up, 1 or 2 or 3 weekends is the ideal number, from a complexity perspective. An example would be like, pouring cement on building a little area for a table or something may be too simple, but maybe a project could be, going through and stripping all the wood off, the paint off all the wood, all the benches, and putting them back together is something larger project, but that the Eagle Scouts should be able to handle. Something that is, 20, 30 kids. Now with COVID, it's a little different. Things have changed, but usually get 20, 30 kids out there helping out.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, they're all doing smaller work, that's the whole thing, So the idea is to, make it. I mean, some of the Eagle projects that I've worked on, one of them was to build a bridge over a stream, a Dry Creek stream, that for the older people, for the community, from the church members can walk over without, if there's water there. So they're, somewhat complicated. Another one was to build a water retention tank for people at Community First. And that meant building the foundation and for the tank so it doesn't tip, and then building in some irrigation processes so that when the tank does get full, it doesn't flood the area. So putting pipe into the ground so that water moves away from the foundation, and then putting gutters in to with filters, not filter, with mesh on top, so it keeps the water from coming in. And so a lot of things they had to go through and thinking about through.
So we've got a lot of projects like that on the plan.
Yeah, so those are the size of the projects we're talking about. I mean, we're not talking about like, I want the place sweep. We're thinking a little bit big. But if they're approved, ideally that makes it easier for the kid. Because one thing I would say with Andrew's project, and I wasn't involved very much with it, but I thought it took a little more steps to get it even approved or agreed upon within the committee and the city and all that stuff. If there's a project that's sort of already gone through that stages and it's just ready to be executed, it might be easier, and that way there's a lot more You know, because even with Andrew right now, you know, I keep telling him, well, I don't even know the project's yet complete because we don't know if we have total approval yet, you know, so that's sort of, you know, he has to get through that process. But yeah, if there are projects that you like done that have gone through, I would say, the approval process of the city and the zoning, then it's much easier to, you know, hand it over to someone, let's say, you know.
Well, maybe for that,
Do
for
that.
next meeting, we can all take a portion of the master plan, come back and start having that as an agenda item moving forward. So Colleen, thank you so much for bringing that up. And David Raymond, thank you so much for making reference to that. And then moving on to sort of where we also would like to discuss with the commission is possibly bringing in a smaller group, a subgroup that would work specifically with each Eagle Scout or individual coming to the city. That way it streamlines this conversation. Y'all, whomever it is, would represent the voice of the city to that volunteer, and that you guys would work with that person to kind of hold their hands or, you know, give them direction, the clear direction that they need in order
Direction.
to move forward. So does anybody want to self-nominate? Or
The proposal you're talking about is to create a subgroup to facilitate a list of projects and also to essentially write up the application process for these Eagle Scouts. Is that?
no, it would be, if you look at the draft that we submitted here for the agenda, it would be the second sort of highlighted point where it said, we thought too, if we think we need more, great, but Park Commission to self-nominate, to act as a liaison, facilitate the project of interest, and help streamline the communication between the Scout and the city representative. So you would be working off of this guideline if this is approved by the commission, and if of course it's approved by City Council, the next step, that you would be that liaison of that individual coming to the city, and you would help streamline that process of communication. Not necessarily taking everything on your own, but just truly being the voice of the Park Commission so that you could represent the city on our behalf of what our interests are to make this process smooth.
Now, do we have a document that kind of defines the application process, or is that?
Would be items number 2 through 10 with the submittal requirements at the bottom. So if you look at page 10 on the agenda packet, this is the draft that Lori, Phil, and I worked on.
Gotcha.
That we want to discuss as the commission. Do we approve? Do we want to edit? Do we want to make changes? Or do we want to send it on to City Council for their review?
I like it. It's just fine by me.
I thought it was great.
The only thing that I would advocate for adding would just be regular intervals at which we would revisit the pre-approved list. I think that should just be a recurring thing that happens on the meeting agenda, maybe like 3 times a year. I don't know what the right increment is, but that's what I would advocate for. But otherwise, I think it's great, and thank you guys. Oh, good work.
Maybe we could just put it on once a quarter, that every quarter, the first meeting, you know, the first month of the quarter meeting, we would discuss city approved projects for volunteers to be able to do, something like that.
Yeah, I think quarterly or even maybe 3 times a year, just to have it as an agenda item to revisit. And, you know, it might turn out that there's nothing to, you know, add or subtract, but then again, there might be things to add or subtract. So
That makes sense.
On the top, I hear it says anyway that we'll revisit it on a biannual basis. I think that would be good enough. You know, populate it one time, come back in 6 months, and see what needs to be revised, or maybe even have a log of the ones that are actually being done. What stage of the process they're in? Are they completed or halfway completed, or where are we at?
So then Ashley, how do we, if we have suggestions to this document, what is the next step for us to say this is the final, we submit this to city council for their approval, or if they have additional questions, how does that work from here on out?
If y'all want to discuss and, maybe approve the document with, with certain changes when you make the motion, say, with the addition of this or, specific language. And then if you want to get me a document that, a revised document that matches that. Amber, I wasn't sure if this was going on to council. We just have it here for approval, but Amber, any ideas on that?
Yeah, we can put it in front of council. I'm sure they'd like to see this work and weigh in on it. If they have any questions, Wendy's on the line and she can serve as your voice for those questions. So they meet on the 21st. So as long as your motion includes the additions and edits, and then we get them the edited version, they can act on it then.
Well, I motion to accept this with the edits and discussion points that we had as
Well, the only edit that I heard, and I may have missed one, was quarterly versus biannually. And I agree with David that I think biannually to review this should be adequate, but I really didn't hear any other edits. What were the other edits?
Well, do we have anybody who wants to self-nominate? Because then we could submit that to city with the final verbiage. Anybody? Who's not at the meeting today?
I will self-nominate too. It looks like the task is to be a liaison with the city council and to work with whoever is running the project. Do I have that approximately right as far as the?
So for example, when Andrew came to the city commission or city council, city would have directed them to you. And you at that point would take this document that we are submitting for approval, and you would say, okay, here are your guidelines from a city's voice or city's perspective, and that you would be there to work with that person. You would be there to work with Andrew specifically, and then come back to us and report any kind of challenges or opportunities that that you found out.
Yeah, I'll be happy to act in that position.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Welcome.
So I guess at this point, we would need to hear a motion to approve the draft process.
I will make a motion to approve the project process with no additions. We're going to keep it on the biannual basis. Don Hudson, thank you for self-nominating yourself. And that with that, we'll do a final revision, including that, and submit it to city for their.
Motion made by Nicole Marisi. Do I hear a second? Second by David Raymond. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes.
Hey, Phil, I think we're at the hour-and-a-half mark. I unfortunately have to drop off, but I think y'all still have a quorum, so I think you'll be in good shape.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you for being here, Lori.
Thank you.
To move on.
I guess
So-
I'll move on too. Y'all
Yes,
still need
thank
me?
you, Bruno. No, thank you very much, Bruno. Thanks for stepping in at the last second.
No problem. Y'all take care. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you,
Hopefully
Bruno.
be
Take
healthy
care.
soon. So the next item is in regards to It's My Park Day. I don't know whose agenda item this is, but
I submitted this because during our monthly walkthrough, we met with Vicki, who's now come on staff to help, take care of a lot of, you're a full-time person here, so thank you for doing that, in helping with some of these issues that Cleanscapes had identified. That the idea here was that if there was going to be an It's My Park Day, that we would have taken Cleanscape's proposal of the nice to haves and ask for those as donations to Rolling Woods so that we could beautify our park. Because we separated the have to haves from erosion and irrigation and more of a concrete perspective of the repairs that need to be done to the park. And I believe, Phil, you mentioned that It's My Park Day is not going to happen this year. Is that correct?
As far as I know, it is not happening this fall. I've looked extensively on Austin Park, and I think I even called them and left a message and have heard nothing back. So as far as I can tell, there is no fall It's My Park Day. I think given the restrictions that we have as far as meetings and number of people, that's a reasonable assumption that there will not be a It's My Park Day this fall. And I think it's highly likely there might not be one in the spring as well, but hopefully we're through all this by then. But
So, Bill, this is Amber. We went ahead and submitted this proposal to RCDC to consider funding this project, and then we would have staff implement the plantings. And so they gave it an initial thumbs up. They have to approve it via their project approval process, which is mandated by state statute. But it's also funded in the city budget. So it's something I want to let you know that we could go ahead and get going on this project and we'll be okay. You won't have to wait for a day.
I'm sorry, what project, what are you talking about doing, Amber?
It's the one that you're looking at, different plantings and the different locations. It was a landscape proposal that was drawn up by Cleanscapes.
Well, I'd kind of like to back up here if you don't mind. I didn't see you mean as far as what was to be planted?
Right. It identifies what and where.
I'd kind of like to back up and us approve that. Quite honestly, I don't know that I want to accept just exactly what Cleanscapes was going to do. Cleanscapes did a lot of things that we didn't approve of, and they're gone now. So rather than go with their plan, I'd like us to discuss it as a park commission.
I think y'all did discuss this, and you actually submitted it as one of your exceptional items to the budget to be considered by city council.
I don't remember that we accepted those specific plans.
I don't remember that we did that either. I mean, I think this is.
I think for Jason, we went with the plant suggestions that they had. I mean, if we go through every single plant, these meetings would be really long.
Well, we don't have to do it in the meeting, certainly.
So I would like some flexibility there, because what you're talking about doing is, I'm looking at that circular garden there that was remained unplanted for years. And so what's happened is some women that have lived in this neighborhood for decades, much longer than anybody that's on this meeting, except for possibly a few people, they started planting a few things there. What they planted, well, also Brian Ryder and a few others, but what some of these women have planted, and I'm talking Rhoda and Martha Hudson and a few others, what they planted are things that are saying things that are around that area. These are things that are native to this area. They're things that are already planted in this area. And I don't know why we would take them out and plant pansies. I think pansies are cute and everything, but what's planted there now requires no maintenance, and I see no reason to take it out of the ground.
So just to clarify on the process part, it was on the Park Commission agenda on September 1st. discussion on request to RCDC to fund the park improvements project. And it was attached there as the plan. So I just want to make clear to everybody that this is not me pushing this project. This was a previous action by the Park Commission.
My understanding of what we were approving was to approve seeing if RCDC funds could be made available, but that we weren't necessarily committing to all the specifics of.
The specifics are included in the packet. And it was a project as submitted. If there were issues at that point, it should have been lined out at that meeting.
Okay. That doesn't mean we can't discuss it at this point, though.
Correct. But I want to make certain that everybody's clear that this is not coming from me or my desk or Cleanscapes, that this was initiated by the Park Commission.
Okay, then I apologize that I missed that. And you say that was on the September 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I'll go back and refer to that. Okay, but I would like to discuss it now. Is that okay? Is that appropriate?
It's appropriate to me.
Okay, so is everybody aware of the bed that we're talking about? Has anybody even looked at it lately?
I was up there with Phil. We walked it 2 weeks ago with Vicki and David. And prior to last meeting, it had been planted within the last month or so, is my guess. And things are not centered, things are not cohesive. And it's wonderful that people are taking the initiative to go out, just like Phil wanted to go out and repair the gate so that people were safe and dogs were safe, and great job on that. But we also now need to have it done by a professional company. And so I think that part of this is to collaborate again with the master plan, to be able to understand what the city council has already approved via the plan, and then to be able to support that plan to the best of our abilities. Our commission is our responsibility. And I can understand how.
And the master plan is a series of options. It is not absolute carved in stone. So it is options, and yes, we can refer to it, but it's not a mandate.
Okay, and I can understand where there's confusion, because what we proposed through the extraordinary budget was more of infrastructure repairs to help with erosion. We did not highlight the beautification of the specific plans. However, it has been approved. And so we also suggested that now that Vicki is on board, that she, since she has the landscape degree background, to look at these and make suggestions of other plants or other native shrubs or cacti, what it may be, to say, this is the direction that we should go. And it's been approved. So now the matter is to implement it and to move forward. So I'm not sure what discussion we want to have around that.
Well, I would love to work with Vicki and discuss the plants that are there, maybe even move them around while the roots are not that deep. But I don't see any reason. I guess I'm saying that I love this community. I love the fact that the community was passionate enough to care to put some plants in the ground. And these are native plants. So if some of these plants can be used, and I can have a conversation with Vicki, I really hate to just rip them out of the ground. You know what I'm saying? And
no.
Work with some of these plants. I really, really would love to, Nicole. These
For
women,
sure.
yeah. So maybe should I talk to Vicki and see if there's some way we can work with these plants?
I think she's here with us, right, Vicki?
Yes. I'm looking at her. She's waving.
Oh wait, where's Vicki? Oh, are you the one that I saw mowing the grass the other day?
I'm
sure, yes.
Oh, bless your heart. You work so hard. I've been looking forward to meeting you someday. I guess I just didn't want to stop you when you were working so hard.
Yeah.
So, Vicki, I guess you've seen what's planted there. There's a buckeye, and I know there's a problem because these plants were planted at different times and by different people. But if there's some way to work with the plants that are there, the people that have planted those have lived in this neighborhood and have served on different commissions for decades. And if there's some way to work with some of those plants, if not all of them, there's 3 or 4. If there's some way, I think, anyway, if there's some way to work with those plants, I'd really like to. Not just rip the ground, but work with them.
I can definitely try to do that. It just depending on the age of the plants, and yeah, I'm still kind of getting a feel for the park. And my biggest concern right now is irrigation and making sure everything is going to get what it needs as far as water goes. But when it comes to recycling what's already there and keeping what the community has already done, then absolutely I agree.
Okay, and there is a water hose in the bed. There's a Buckeye 6 feet away, 8 feet away. I don't know, maybe it's 10. I'm no good with distance.
I know what it is.
And so there's water that's available. And I think the concern that I have with the way the bed is planted right now is making sure that there's room for everything. So I'd love your opinion on that and how to make that work better. And I can meet you up there sometime.
I'm here Monday through Friday.
Okay, so maybe today.
I'll be here until 3:30.
Okay, so I can meet you up there at 1 o'clock if you'd like.
Sounds great.
Perfect. I'll see you up there at 1 o'clock.
Perfect.
But just to go back and clarify what Amber was saying, and I think what Nicole was saying is, and Nicole, David, and I did work on like culling down the list. I think the vast majority of line items that got approved by RCDC really had more to do with like hardscaping and erosion control and things like that.
They did.
Than they did with actual, individual plantings. So
Right.
hopefully we can all agree that we move forward with what's already been worked on for a couple months and approved by RCDC, in addition to this separate issue of the plantings. Are we all good with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, as far as RCDC providing the money for the erosion control and that type of thing, I think we're all in full agreement on that for sure. I see a thumbs up from David
And me.
and everyone. Done. Me too. Thumbs up. There.
And also, great appreciation for your hard work on that, you guys. I really appreciated what y'all put into that.
And then as far as figuring out native plants, one thing that I know Vicki came up from Louisiana. We've spoken a few times, but as far as native plants, Mary Elizabeth is a great resource for you, Vicki, if you want to use her. And there are several others. You also met some other people in the neighborhood who are very familiar with the natives.
And part of the next item is to ask for the park commission to establish an approved list of plants that Vicki can easily reference and not have to wait 30 days, possibly miss the planning window, that if she needs to replace something or do something, that y'all have something ready for her.
That's great. Mary Elizabeth, since you're such a well-versed person, would you take that on?
Sure. It depends on where she's wanting to plant it. But absolutely. Nicole, you guys, I'm really trying to roll with this, the whole idea of the monarch butterfly. And the more I've read about it, at y'all's encouragement on this, that we're really in big trouble as far as the monarch butterflies. I'm trying to keep as much of it away from the drive as you suggested, but I got to tell you, the monarch butterflies are in much greater danger than I had thought. They've lost so much, not only habitat, but they've lost so much, like the milkweed, for example, which is really vitally important to them. So I know y'all don't want that on Rollingwood Drive because you say that it puts them in danger because of traffic. But I tell you what, I don't think we can put too much milkweed in. But yes, I'd be happy to help you, Vicki, on that. And I can look over the list of plants and we can talk about that further today.
Okay. I think we've gone over that item now. If there's any further discussion, then we can start moving on. Not hearing any. So next item is the discussion and possible action on park walkthrough recap, and basically posting that on the website. So once again, I think this was Nicole's item.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm not sure if it missed it for some reason, but I thought I added like a Google Drive attachment. Basically, when Phil, David, Vicki, and myself walked 2 weeks ago, I took photos of the areas we discussed, and then if anybody else has a better way of coordinating this information, my feelings won't be hurt. But the idea then is I took all those photos that we did on the walkthrough, put them into a Google Drive, started a spreadsheet, and said, on this day, here's who was present, here are the location items that we had discussed that need addressing, with photos. And then the idea would be just to keep this running list every month, that whomever was that person in charge on that walkthrough would do the same thing, the same process. This way we have photos, we have tracking, and we have the status and the update of it. So for example, last month when Brad Walters came on the phone and mentioned the gates, well, Phil, between then and this meeting, went out and fixed it, at least temporarily, until Western Hills can go through and make those repairs. But again, the idea here is that we present this information somehow, some way, put it onto the website. This way, if residents are curious about what's going on or they have an issue, we can always guide them there. And then it helps city staff as well as us stay on top of the status of issues that we found during our monthly walkthrough. And again, if we have an idea or somebody is better at organizing or coming up with a better system to track this, I'm all ears. But that's how I took it out of the gates after our last walkthrough, was truly on a Google Drive with the photos and a spreadsheet that's identifying the needs. And then that would be presented both to the city side, our side, and residents, so that we can track it and keep hold of it.
And Nicole, from the city side, we do have a few thoughts on that. If we were to have a Google Drive link on our webpage, we wouldn't be able to have access of multiple people to add whatever they wanted to that drive, mainly because we have our policy says the city administrator approves everything that goes on the website, or at least city staff is in control. A thought that we had discussed to maybe achieve this would be to have it as this, an item every month, or however often, after a park walkthrough, whoever was there would put together kind of an update for the packet the next month, and then it would live forever, in the park commission packet, kind of just as another alternative to consider. But as far as putting something on the website, city staff would really need to be in control of it. And I'm not sure it'd be super feasible every week, every however often, to be adding to the website in that way for us. So just some thoughts from staff.
And that's good to know what we're limited to do. I wish there was a real-time tracking system that we could, I don't know. I'm all ears for whatever you all think, or maybe we just table it given the time restraints that we have today. But if the commission can come back next month and think through a way, maybe somebody partner on a sidebar with city, and I'm happy to do that if we need to do a smaller group, to say how can we come together with a way to again, it's a tracking system. I know Wendy Hundley started it. We've kind of gone on and off with this, but I think it's a real important component of helping keep our park up to date and everybody on the same page of what's been happening.
We can't just address the issues at the next park commission meeting? I mean, if there are issues, can we just bring them up at the next park commission meeting and address them then?
Well, what Nicole is wanting is some way of all of us being able to see what the issues are, and basically some form of tracking, I believe, so that we, some degree of having it in one centralized place, so it's not just discussions that can kind of disappear over time, but we've captured it and we have a place to look and see, okay, where are we on these items, that type of thing.
And I guess then we would have a historical perspective on it as well. So yes, and because we don't have that now.
Right.
Correct. It's almost like you generate a work order and then you submit it into a system, and then that work order gets into the hands of the right people that have to take care of it. And when that work is completed, it's then put it back in. And again, I don't know how taxing that is on the city side of things. So it's more about what everybody's saying here is identifying the problems, coming up with a process to be able to have the work completed in a timely manner, and then showing that it's been done and what was done. This way we continue to move on, and hopefully that list grows smaller over time and is able to just serve the city and the residents well.
Nicole, is your Google Drive document available is it available on the city website at this point?
I can forward that out. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't realize that was supposed to be an attachment to the packet. I can forward that out via email right now. Nicole had forwarded me this item request.
You know, it was,
We also need to be careful that we don't violate any potential Open Meeting Act laws. So we can check on that too, just to make sure that the one thing that elected and appointed officials can go to jail for is violation of Open Meetings Act. So we want to make sure we protect y'all and but also give you that opportunity to communicate. So we'll do some thinking on our end too, and work with whoever would like to work on this item. One thing that David mentioned to me too is a request to put these to quarterly. It feels like we're having the same meeting because he just doesn't have enough opportunity in 30 days to possibly get to everything that was pointed out in the last walkthrough. And so he thought maybe a quarterly basis might be a little more reasonable time frame for him to address some of the things, and we won't be having the same 2-hour meeting every month.
I think that's a good idea. I agree.
I agree as well.
I agree. Thumbs up from David.
That's
Raymond.
great.
Elizabeth.
And then Amber, actually, could you share with us, and I don't know if this is part of this conversation or not, but the work order process. So for example, if one of us happened to be up there and we saw something that was not addressed in that previous monthly, between the quarterly walkthroughs, so to speak, if we saw something there, would we be able to submit that to the city so that it could be addressed? And then how do we track that? Maybe that's a sidebar with 2 of us or 3 of us on the city side to come up with a streamlined process that works best for your end so it's not time consuming, but that we're able to track it.
Sure. So yes, you can submit a work order to just call City Hall and we'll get the work order in process. I'll be honest with you, we don't have a very advanced work order system. It consists of the administrative assistant. She completes the work order. She prints it, gives it to the crew, and hopefully they can address it that day. But sometimes I do, it falls through the crack because we don't have an automated, something to kind of prompt them other than Elaine's brain, thinking about what's outstanding. And so she does do a good job trying to make sure the guys come back in when they've completed something and they give her the evidence that it's been completed. She does a good job with it.
Would you be able to circulate that work order to all of us just so we have it sort of in our folders, and that way we can have access to it and not bombard you with it again? And again, it's just more of trying to, maybe we have to go back to kind of what we did with the Eagle Scout process of, so the commission is all on board with how things work here. And if a new commission person comes on or somebody leaves, then we're not revisiting this process all over again.
I like it.
Well, I'm happy to work with city unless somebody else, I think it's always good to have at least 2 or 3 commissions so that there's more than one voice being heard. We all give such great different perspectives and time on this commission. So if anybody else would like to step up with me, I welcome that opportunity to work with you.
I'd like to go on a walkthrough next time we have a walkthrough. I already have a volunteer position, so I'm going to decline that offer, but I would like to go on a walkthrough. Also, how many problem areas as far as erosion, hardscape, things that are not beautification, but are maintenance and durability, are there like 20 of them or 6 or 7 or 8, or how many of these problem areas are there?
Well, from the Cleanscapes proposal that RCDC approved, that we approved back in September, I want to say that there were 11 points of interest, but not very complex. It was just smaller subsets of sort of Gentry and Rollingwood Drive, and then, you know, Nixon. They were, you know, areas. And with regard to the last walk that Phil and I did with Vicki and David, Phil, what do you think? I'm pulling up the Google Drive right now just to look at my notes.
Well, what I saw in the Google Drive, there were, I don't know, 4 or 5, if I'm recollecting correctly, things that we saw during the walkthrough, but it's not terribly extensive, but I don't know. I'm not in a place to pull up the Google Drive right here at this moment, but I have seen what you've put at the Google Drive, and I've got
it. Yeah, I've got it pulled up. I mean, the total was $29,000 worth. Well, $29,708 worth of things. It was about, I don't know, maybe 25 line items. But each line item was just one small, area.
I think we're talking about something else, Colleen. I think that is what, well, maybe I'm the one who's off, but I thought we were talking about just the action items off of the walkthrough that Nicole had on a.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Sorry about
I was
that.
just curious about the project count, like roughly, but 10 or so, 10 to 15, it sounds like that's the kind of number I was interested in, so.
And Don, to clarify both, so are you referring to what RCDC approved, or with the monthly walkthrough that Phil and I had 2 weeks ago? Because they're two different issues and they are different areas of concern.
I'm not sure. But there's not like 50 problem areas in our park complex.
No.
So I guess the ones that were approved that, but you know what, I'm just looking for real rough numbers. We can move on if y'all would like. I got what I needed, more or less.
I would like to speak about the erosion issues. Is this the right time to speak up?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I asked for an agenda item on erosion issues because I'm talking.
You do have an item coming up for that, I believe.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm hearing right now is, as far as walkthrough and tracking, that's going to be temporarily taken offline, and Nicole and anyone else who is yet to be heard of volunteering can work with.
I'm working with Nicole, so I'll volunteer.
There you go.
But to understand the scope of what we're doing, we're just trying to come up with a tracking system that complies with the Open Meetings Act and also reduces administrative work for the commission and the members of the city staff, and just try to streamline communication in a way that's compliant. Is that right? Okay, we can do that.
Nicole shakes her head yes, and I say yes, and so yes. So great, thank you, Colleen. And so you guys can take that offline, work on it. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. And with that, I think we can move on. And I think we can punch through the rest of the items pretty quickly if anybody's starting to worry about time constraints. But the next thing is basically my item, which is I was proposing that, well, basically I'll read it out. Discussion and possible action to add a monthly park walkthrough schedule with the scheduled participants to the Rollingwood Park Commission webpage. I just basically want us to have the schedule. Each of us signs up. You know, there are 2 people from the Park Commission that sign up at a time to go do the monthly walkthroughs, and the dates of those walkthroughs And I think it would be nice to have that on our website if everybody is in agreement with that, in order to just have a centralized place for us to refer back to it of, is
Are
this
we
my,
moving to quarterly now? I think that Ashley and Amber or somebody had mentioned moving to quarterly walkthroughs so that David has time to actually make those repairs. Is that what we're motioning also or discussing?
no, what I heard in that, and certainly Amber and Ashley can chime in, what I heard was David was requesting that what we come up with be only passed on to him quarterly. I still think for us to have enough of the park commission members to see it, since we're only allowed to have 2 at a time, I think if we went to quarterly, that would basically mean that each of us might be doing it once a year or something like that. So I still think that monthly on the actual walkthrough, but as far as what comes out of the walkthrough as action items, that be provided to David quarterly. That's my understanding, but certainly I would love to hear from Amber and Ashley if that's correct.
You know what makes sense to me? Don't we have a meeting about every 6 weeks? Isn't that about how often the park commission meets?
I think we're the first Tuesday of the month.
It's monthly.
It's monthly. Okay.
Yeah.
Quarterly seems too infrequent. I think every 2 months would be the fewest
Well,
meetings of the year.
People sign up on the
Monthly makes sense.
Yeah. People sign up on the walkthrough, and like I said, only 2 park commission members can go on each walkthrough at this time with COVID. What I'm hoping to do once COVID is lifted and the restrictions is have an active park commission meeting where we all walk together and view the park together as our monthly meeting, but we're not able to do that at this time. So
Is there a scheduled meeting, scheduled walkthrough at this point?
There is a scheduled walkthrough, and everybody signed up at different times. And I know myself and other people seem to have had a little bit of difficulty keeping that straight. So what I'm proposing is that we have that schedule posted on our link for the park commission, so that if you're wondering if you're up for the park walkthrough, you could easily look on our webpage and see, yeah, I am, or no, I'm not, and you can find out who's there. Part of the reason, among other things, I want to hear people's feedback if people are in agreement with that, but also I don't want anybody to be worried about people knowing where they are at any particular time, any kind of privacy issues or anything like that. I certainly don't have any privacy issues, but I don't know if other people might. So I'm trying to be mindful of different people's feelings toward whether or not they're okay with their schedule being posted up on the website. And also I want to hear from the city staff and perhaps Wendy, if that is possible to get that schedule up on the website so that we might be able to have that up there. Does anybody object to it being there, I guess? Foremost?
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it.
Everybody's okay with it? David? You're cool? Okay. So if we're able to get it up there, certainly Wendy, Amber, and Ashley, so I'm assuming this, even though it says, yeah, it says possible action item. So do I hear a motion? Since someone make a motion to possibly put that up on the website.
I'll motion to put it on the website.
I hear a motion from Colleen. I hear a second from Mary Elizabeth. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. So hopefully we might be able to get the monthly walkthrough schedule up on the website. Okay.
What What is the schedule as it is right now? I don't seem to have it. This last month has been pretty difficult for me.
Again, we originally had everyone signed up on a like a Google spreadsheet. That way, everyone could see who was scheduled to join it. And I believe the park commission should have access. The new members may not. So I'll just go ahead and circulate that via email. And if anybody else would like to sign up for it, they can just let me know.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I kind of had to go offline in September with a new job, so trying to get back and fit the park commission in with the new job at the same time. So appreciate that.
Understood, and that really gets to the crux of why I'm wanting it on the website as well. It's just a really easy place for us to refer back to it instead of digging through emails and that type of thing. So that's why we're trying to get it up there. So with that, we're moving on to, okay, we've already discussed and Mary Elizabeth with the list of grasses plants. She's going to be working with Vicki, so I think that has been addressed. If I don't hear anything else, if anybody else has anything to add to that particular agenda item, now's your moment. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. We've also somewhat gone into, but certainly now, discussion regarding erosion and upper park potential solutions is the next agenda item. So, as stated before, I think RCDC has committed to possibly applying funds toward those solutions. And
I requested that this be put on the agenda. I'm concerned in the past, what they used were some railroad ties and some old telephone poles. These were put on the upper park, close to where the fitness equipment is and the playground equipment. And it's the drop off is where it goes down below to the city buildings. And if you look where some of these have decayed over time, and where some of them still are, you will see where some of them are, there's a significant drop off where they have actually held some of the soil in place. So my concern is if we allow these to further degrade or rot, my concern is we will have more soil erosion from the upper level. So I feel like we need to be proactive here and replace these with what I don't know, but I'm hoping someone has some ideas. But I do feel like we need to do something before it's too late, because we have at least one that has rotted all the way through. And I believe there's some that have been taken away. I know when Robert Patterson was on the Park Commission, he wanted to get rid of all of them. And I don't think he agreed with me about soil erosion, but it's pretty blatant. You can look at it and you can see the difference.
This is along the edge there by the upper playscape, like on the edge of the cliff.
Yes, exactly. And you'll see it right where the playscape is. Walk to the edge of it, where it drops down below. You will see.
I'll check it out.
Phil, wasn't this part of our walkthroughs identification areas that we were talking about? There were 6 or 7 of these that run off from the upper park into the lower park. Did you recall?
I don't think we walked over to where Mary Elizabeth was talking over by those playscapes, because we kind of came up to the stairs and then we turned left after we came up the stairs. She's talking that if you're going over more toward the playscape on the upper park. I have looked at it after Mary Elizabeth pointed it out, and it might be something to look at, but she's talking about those railroad ties and everything rotting out up there. Yeah, I don't think at our last walkthrough we got to that specific area, unfortunately, but I do agree there's an issue there to be addressed for sure. And maybe that's something that everybody needs to, or everybody could go up and look at and come up with ideas. I think maybe Robert Patterson's, I'm not sure, but oftentimes those railroad ties and telephone poles and things are treated with poisons to prevent the wood boring insects from attacking them and that type of thing. And that might be his main concern, is that it might be impacting the ecology and the plants. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just a supposition that might be.
I'm pretty sure that that's most people's problem with those. I think Robert Patterson just thought they weren't needed, but that doesn't matter. That's history. But I don't know what alternatives could be used up there. I don't know if we would use stone or what we would use, and that would be something to explore.
There are retaining wall pavers, but certainly that, I'm assuming the railroad ties or telephone poles and that type of thing are probably the cheapest solution that's readily available. But
Right.
anyway.
Could we add that to our potential Boy Scout project list?
Yeah.
I mean, is that something, removal and replacement? I mean, it's a decent sized area that could use some regenerating, no?
Sure.
Is that not a big enough project? I don't know.
I think it sounds big. It sounds like a big project.
It could be something that we could identify as a problem, but as far as the scope of the project and all that, that goes through the Boy Scouts back and forth, both locally and regionally. So it's a long process with them. They would be the ones to determine whether it's a big enough project, but you know, certainly I think it would be appropriate. But that doesn't mean that the Boy Scouts would think it's appropriate.
And I wonder how expensive it would be, because we're talking about a good length here.
Well, it would be expensive, but part of what the Boy Scouts also do is fundraising for their projects. So the beneficiary of whatever project they do generally does not outlay any funds toward that project. That's part of their project process, is to either get materials donated or to get money donated, all of that. So I think it wouldn't cost us anything if that happened to be a Boy Scout project.
But it seems to me if RCDC funds are available for this, maybe that's the way to go for this, quite honestly, because I think, well, I mean, I like the idea of using the Scouts, but I think the funds are going to be the issue if we go with something other than using, you know, the inexpensive materials of railroad ties or telephone poles.
That's absolutely the case. I don't know if the RCDC funds, I mean, certainly that might be something that we would ask to go back to them, but as far as what RCDC has approved thus far, I don't know whether that's within the scope of what they approved. Does anybody else know? I don't think it is.
I don't think it was on the list, no.
Right.
Well, I'm fine with just going to an Eagle Scout project. I don't care. Any way we get it done is great.
Sure. I think more than anything, it's maybe something that we take a look at and give some thought to. Certainly, I would love to find out if RCDC funds could be made available to it. That would be fantastic. But and maybe if David could take a look at it as well and propose ideas. So.
All right, thank you.
So is this an issue that's not already addressed on the plan?
I believe it is not.
Okay.
It was not addressed within that $29,000 request that we did over the last couple months. It was not addressed, correct?
Okay.
Kind of, it's already there. It's been installed. It's more of a maintenance, continuing maintenance issue on something that's existing. And to my understanding, that is what RCDC funds can be used towards. However, it wasn't presented to RCDC before, And I don't think it's on the scope of what they did approve that they were willing to put funds to, but it might be something that someone could approach them to see if whether or not they might be able to move some funds or be able to address it if it's a higher need item than what they've already committed to. I don't know. But I don't know how we interact with RCDC. I think that's a city council action, perhaps.
There's a process that has been established for the park commission to approach the RCDC. We can
Okay.
send that around to everybody.
Well, then I think this might be something that we could submit over to RCDC and see if there are any funds available to look at it. But also, I think we might need to get a lot more clear on what we're specifically proposing to them and how much money that might take. And I think that working with David and figuring out the materials and labor or anybody outside labor that might be required, all that sort of thing would need to be done in order to get a firm feel for what monies we're asking for. But we can look at that and perhaps even take some degree of action on it before the next meeting or discuss it at the next meeting. But I don't know that we can do anything at this time. I'm open to any other discussion.
Well, if we wanted to move forward, we would try to get a quote on it. Try to
Right.
get, and
I think
that
that's
TD, the first thing they would ask would be, what's it going to cost? I would think.
absolutely.
So I don't know how important it is that it be done quickly. Maybe that should be studied thoroughly on the walkthrough and then discussed next month's meeting. It might make sense.
Bill, David's got something to add. David,
Right.
go ahead.
After we did our walkthrough last time, we were talking about, Nicole, remember how the water runs down, and we had several spots that we need to decide if we're gonna divert the water or make some flumes or something like that. So whatever we decide to do, we need to consider those points as well. And find out where the best position and how we're gonna fix it, because the water is we're probably might be putting more water in one spot than it is actually at the moment going. When we build a wall or something that we're gonna do. We're gonna divert more water to one spot instead of 5 or 6 other spots. So we need to look at that.
Absolutely. I think part of what's contributing to that too is also the runoff from the field house. And I know there's been several discussion on perhaps somehow getting rainwater collection or something like that on that field house, but that may be part of the contributing factor of that particular area to be considered as well. But yeah, I'm definitely in favor of us looking at a comprehensive overview of everything that would be involved in this rather than putting in piecemeal solutions that lead to another type of problem.
Yes.
But if we could, if David, if you could look at that and start putting some thought to how that can be addressed. And as we know, Mary Elizabeth's going to be up there at 1, so she might be able to, as well as do plants, point out specifics on that at 1 o'clock today. That might be great. If you're willing to do that, Mary Elizabeth. If David's willing to do that, if everybody's willing to
I'll be there. I'll be up there at 1 o'clock.
So that would be great. With that, I think we address that as much as we can at this time. Anybody feel differently? Hearing nothing else. The next item we've already discussed, which was the fencing, that everybody graciously said that yes, we could provide the money, so that's great. Next item is update on status of park improvement project.
I think we've already covered that with the RCDC.
Awesome. Next item, update regarding commercial use permit issued from Pure Bar Austin.
Yes, I wanted to give a quick update on that. They had originally submitted just to use the park for their classes for the month of August, I believe it was, and they found them to be very successful. So they are going to be doing the same in October. I believe they're doing Tuesdays in October, so starting today. Again, and they do have the permit for the whole year. They had just originally, decided that they were going to do it for a month, but because it was so successful, they're going to do it again this month. So just wanted to let everyone know that they will be up in the park this month as well.
Wonderful.
Good.
We enjoy their music. So next is department reports, and there's the August Park Commission reports PDF. Anybody has anything to discuss about that? Hearing none, I'm open to hear a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Mary Elizabeth makes a motion. Do we hear a second?
Seconds it.
Second by Nicole Marisi. All those in favor to adjourn?
Yay!
All right.
Hi.
Thank you, everybody, for attending and sticking through. I think we got through a lot of items, and I'm very pleased with the progress that we made in this meeting. So hope to see you all out there soon.
All right,
And
thank you.
see you at next meeting. All right.
Thank you all. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.